1 week of jury selection and 2 weeks of trial. You know, no.
What do you think?
Yes, sir.
There's a first offender status here. Could you briefly summarize what that means?
Well, first offender is essentially a type of sentence or a law where an individual has an opportunity, if they successfully complete their jail time and any probation or parole that follows without any more criminal activity or any violation of the aforementioned conditions, any of probation, I'll speak, not lawyer speak, but regular language of probation, then that person has an opportunity, I guess, to get a fresh start. That sentence doesn't get held against them. Anyone other than a DA's office or a law enforcement entity, when they pull what we call an NCIC or a GCIC, a criminal history report, won't be able to see that individual's arrest and conviction on the record. Yes, sir.
Can you speak to what it was that caused you to drop the murder charges, and if that evidence was presented during the trial?
I'm not going to get into detail about why we did that. You know, I don't think that's appropriate for this forum. I'll tell you that there were some things that that changed over the course of the year in terms of the evidence that, you know, we saw new evidence. There was some old evidence that we took a second look at, and at the end of the day, like I said in court a couple of weeks ago, it wasn't that we were exonerating Mrs. Sneiderman. It was that we weren't absolutely 100% sure that she did what she was charged with, and it's my obligation as a prosecutor when I feel that way or when I believe that, you know, to step back, take another look at the case, and if it's appropriate, to dismiss the charges that I'm not sure that a person committed, and that's what we are. But me not being sure, it's not a public statement of me saying that, you know, something happened one way or it happened another way. It's just saying that I'm not as sure.
Duffy?
Can you characterize what you thought of Andrea Sneiderman today when she was speaking?
You know, I didn't think anything. I didn't think anything. You know, she was charged with lying under oath. She was charged with lying to the police. She spoke today, and she never took responsibility or accountability for that. So it's difficult for me to feel sympathy when someone asks for mercy, but they're not willing to admit their faults.
In getting 5 years to serve, which should be eligible for?
That's a question for the parole board. You know, we prosecutors never know that. All we can do is guess, and quite frankly, those guesses are oftentimes uneducated guesses. I've seen, you know, I've seen people serve the majority of the sentence. I've seen people serve a little bit of their sentence, but that's a question better for the parole board.
As you stand here today, in your gut, do you believe she had a role in planning this?
I don't know. I don't know, and that's why she wasn't tried for murder. You know, what people have to understand is that...
You said what you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. What do you in your heart and your gut believe?
What people have to understand is this. As a prosecutor, my obligation is to seek justice. Oftentimes, we're put in positions where we can put up a case. We can try a case. And maybe we'll win, maybe we'll lose. But we have to ask the question, is that the right thing to do to try the case on those charges, not whether or not we can? And so I don't make determinations about what cases go forward based on whether or not we're going to lose or win. You know, we're not a basketball team or a football team. You know, we're a group of people in pursuit of justice. And so when I'm no longer certain that a person did something that I charged them with, then I have to pull my office back and do what's appropriate, no matter what the consequences. You know, if it means I get criticized, then I get criticized. If it means that people say nasty things about me in the media, then so be it. But our obligation, first and foremost, is to seek justice. In terms of my gut, you know, I'm not going to really speak to any gut feelings, you know, that I may or may not have. All I can tell you is that I wasn't certain enough to try her for murder.
Kathleen?
Mr. James, did you have an opportunity to speak to jurors after the verdict yesterday?
No, I did not. Yeah.
You were talking about gut feelings, but was there a specific reason or something that came up? As you said, things changed during the course of the year. Can you describe at all what came up that changed your mind about the murder charge?
Yeah, there were a number of things that came up, but I'm not going to get into any of them in detail. And I know that's what you would like for me to do, but I'm not going to do that. But there were a number of things that came up. First, through our own investigation and our own second and third look at the case, and also there were some things, and contrary to what the defense said, contrary to what Mr. Clegg said during the pre-trial a couple of weeks ago, there were some things in their discovery, quite frankly, that made me take a second look. And again, there weren't any bombshells. It wasn't a aha, but it was one of those, it was a scenario where when I took a second look, I said, well, maybe this doesn't mean what I thought it meant. Maybe this doesn't mean what I thought it meant. And that's not a position as a prosecutor that you want to be in going to trial. Whether you're trying somebody for shoplifting or murder, again, our obligation is to seek justice, you know. So if a case needs to be dismissed, I have to stand up and say this case should be dismissed. If we're going to go forward without respect to whether or not we're going to win, we're still going to go forward. I've lost cases. I've lost trials. I've lost them throughout my career. I've won more than I've lost, but I've lost. It never feels good to lose, but if you're doing the right thing, then you go forward without respect to whether or not you're going to win or lose. However, just because you can win, just because you can do well, just because you can put on a show, it doesn't mean that you should. It has to be about justice, and that's what this office is about, and you know, frankly, that's what I've been about my entire 14 years as a prosecutor.
Last question, anyone?
Do you believe justice was served today?
I believe the system worked, and if your definition of justice is the system working, then justice was served.
How has this touched you on a personal level?
You know, we prosecute a lot of cases, and what the public needs to understand and what you all need to understand is that I go to work every day, and I look at a file where someone's been murdered, someone's been raped, someone's been molested, someone's been robbed. You know, I've got an elderly person that's lost, you know, their life savings. This is what we do, you know, and I'm touched every time someone is wronged, every time a family loses a loved one. It touches me, and so even though the media has taken this huge interest in this case, it's no greater, and it's not lesser than anything that I do on a daily basis. I treat all murders the same. I treat all, you know, rapes, molestation, robberies the same, and so this case has touched me. You know, I feel for the Sneiderman family. I feel for the Newman family, quite frankly, you know, because Mrs. Newman, Relly Newman, and those children of Henry Newman, you know, didn't ask for this to happen to them. You know, their father's in prison and they're living with the shame of what he's done. You know, I feel for the Sneiderman children because they've got to grow up without one parent and they've got to be away from another parent. But these are feelings that I have about every case. Yeah.
Your
That's
thoughts
it,
about an
that's it.
appeal?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That's it.